If you've been told to eat bland for your H. pylori and you're still dealing with reflux, bloating, or that heavy stomach feeling after every meal, it's not because bland food doesn't work. It's because bland isn't the point. Here's what most people and many clinicians miss about H. pylori. It's not just a bacteria that causes ulcers. That's about a tenth of the story. H. pylori scrambles your entire digestive system cascade. So, when you eat without understanding that cascade, even safe foods can trigger symptoms. And bland foods often make the problem worse because they don't give your system what it needs to heal. I've worked with many patients stuck in this unfortunate trap, told that they have too much stomach acid when they really have too little, or told to avoid all trigger foods when their gut needs specific signals to rebuild itself. The goal isn't to eat like you're scared of food. The goal is to eat in a way that calms inflammation and restores normal digestive signaling. I'm Dr. Kenny, root cause health detective and certified functional medicine practitioner. My job is helping you understand the why behind symptoms, not just giving you a list of good and bad foods. So in this video, I'm walking you through the foods that actually soothe your stomach lining while you're healing from H. pylori, and just as importantly, avoiding the ones that re-irritate the gut lining while you're trying to heal. Ideally, this is not a restrictive diet. It's a healing framework, and understanding the whys underneath H. pylori is step number one. And if you're tired of guessing what's safe to eat and ready for a plan that avoids the black and white hoopla out there, hit that like button. It tells me that you want more practical root cause nutrition guidelines just like this. All right, so let me tell you why this matters so much to me personally. H. pylori played a huge role in my own health journey. It was the major driver of my acid reflux days, and it showed up in the context of weight fluctuations, high stress around school, and honestly, some major social pressures that I didn't even realize were affecting me in that way. For a long time, I thought I just had a sensitive stomach, but when we really identified the H. pylori and I started addressing it through food, through mindset, through root cause investigation, everything started shifting. That experience became a huge part of what motivated me to get into functional medicine. So here's the pattern I saw with myself, but I still see with patients today. H. pylori is extremely common globally. Many patients carry it without symptoms, but when it is symptomatic, it becomes the root node that affects way more than just your stomach. And even without symptoms, that can be the case. It interacts with your gut barrier, your immune tone and strength, your microbiome, your motility, things moving through your digestive tract, and even your mental and emotional stress response. And this isn't just anecdotal. A 2022 review confirmed that H. pylori affects not just the stomach lining, but gut barrier integrity as a whole, the microbiome composition, and even systemic inflammation that drives diseases in other areas of the body. So the big picture here is that H. pylori is a systems problem, not just a stomach symptom problem. And here's what makes it really tricky. It spreads easily. You can pass it through kissing, sharing utensils, even close contact, depending on the person. If your symptoms are strong or they keep coming back, it's worth considering testing the entire family or friend group that you're around, partners, roommates. There's also a lot of debate on when to treat it. Some practitioners treat it as soon as they see it, whether it's a DNA test or whether it's a blood antigen test. Others treat it only when it's symptomatic. I tend to work a little bit more in the middle. We treat the bug when it's active and causing problems, but also in ways that honor the context of inflammation load throughout the entire body because it's all connected. So the big takeaway here is that it's not about guesswork anymore. The research shows that H. pylori disrupts multiple systems simultaneously. So to better understand healing foods and foods to avoid, let's look at what's actually happening in the gut when H. pylori is present. Think of it as a domino effect. H. pylori changes the local acidity inside the stomach. That irritates the mucosal lining. When your acidity is off, your stomach can't activate pepsin properly. That's the digestive enzyme that breaks down protein. So the protein can sit there or further along in your digestive tract, partially digested. That sends a very weak signal to your pancreas for the rest of your pancreatic enzyme secretion as well as the gallbladder. And so they're not releasing these enzymes in the right amounts or at the right time. So the result is that motility throughout your digestive tract will generally slow down. Constipation is pretty commonly seen with acid reflux issues and H. pylori. Food stagnates, bacteria ferment it, and you get the gas, the bloating, that hard pit in your stomach sensation. This is why bringing in advanced functional labs in the context of H. pylori can be so helpful. We can look at markers like pancreatic elastase, which gives us insight into how it may be affecting overall pancreatic function. And also we can look at things like putrefactive proteins present in the stool to see, is protein truly being broken down and absorbed, because that protein is the number one healing fuel for the gut lining. Here's another piece that many people don't know, and that I certainly didn't when I was going through my journey. When your stomach acid is too low or too high, it affects the tone of your lower esophageal sphincter. This is what controls the opening and closing of food going into your stomach, but also that reflux potentially coming out. When that valve weakens or doesn't get the signals of good, strong acid, it gets lazy. Research shows that too little acid and acid rebound when you stop common acid blocking medications can weaken lower esophageal sphincter tone and lead to more chronicity of your symptoms. A 2021 study looks into the emerging signs that long-term PPI use can lower stomach acid and might contribute to chronic diseases and poor nutrient absorption globally. So we're not just talking about trying to raise or lower stomach acid. We're trying to restore balance, digestive function and power, and context-appropriate acid. It really becomes the Goldilocks principle here. This is why the take a PPI long-term or forever approach often backfires. You're interrupting the very system you're trying to protect. All right, now let's dive into what actually helps. I'm going to walk you through the food categories that calm the stomach and support healing. But remember, this is a framework, not a prescription. Your body's going to tell you what works, so use this as a starting point. The base of your H. pylori healing diet should be to start with soft, moisture-cooked proteins. Think soups, stews, slow-cooked meals, shredded meats, and lightly cooked fish. One of my favorite go-tos in its most basic form is a high-quality bone broth. Why does this matter? It reduces the mechanical and chemical stress on your mucosal lining and stomach. It basically tells your stomach that it doesn't have to work as hard, and that's incredibly important when H. pylori is sending the signal of low stomach acid already. Then there's the cruciferous family: broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, kale. But here's the key. You want to make sure that it's cooked, not raw, especially in the early phases if you're having active flares. And broccoli sprouts are worth paying attention to here too because of their high sulforaphane content. In fact, a 2024 review on cruciferous vegetables and H. pylori showed that sulforaphane from broccoli sprouts has an anti-H. pylori effect, and it may help protect the gastric mucosa in humans. The effect is modest, but it is real and measurable. So start small. If you're sensitive, you'll know quickly. A third category of foods that can be healing is polyphenol-rich foods. They add another layer to your healing. Think berries like blueberries, cranberries, pomegranate, fermented berries, and then turmeric with black pepper if you can tolerate it, and also ginger in small amounts, as well as artichoke and citrus peels. These aren't magic bullets either, but they're helpful adjuncts. Cranberry in particular has been studied, and a systematic review has found that it can suppress H. pylori activity, though not necessarily to the point of eradication, which we'll talk about later. It's a valuable addition to part of your complete plan here, not a replacement for treatment. So make sure that you treat these natural and complementary healing alternatives as things that will stack up to help your resilience when it comes to tackling H. pylori. And in this space, I like to draw from my training in traditional Chinese medicine here. Foods that calm what TCM calls stomach fire or rebellious stomach chi include things like mung bean soup, slippery elm, marshmallow root, lotus root. Think earth and root vegetables. They tend to be very mild and calming and soothing. Bland, yes, but also incredibly nutrient dense when we're talking about these vegetables. They have mild, cooling, and soothing properties. And here's what to avoid when it comes to H. pylori, especially during active flares. And some of these may seem obvious, but trust me when I say this, I've seen it all. Apple cider vinegar, minimize or avoid. The HCl supplements, avoid while you have this active flare and active pathogen present. Strong bitters, other types of vinegars and acids, as well as raw, fibrous, tough vegetables. These can all re-irritate the lining, especially when we're talking about not overburdening your digestive power. Once you've confirmed clearance or eradication of the H. pylori, you can cautiously reintroduce these foods one at a time and see how your body responds. It's a uniquely individual process. But the goal here is to plant calm in the digestive tract. The one soft protein, one cooked vegetable, and one botanical component at a time. You're not restricting out of fear, you're eating strategically to give your stomach what it needs to rebuild, because many bland diets lack the amino acids in enough concentrations to truly allow the gut to heal. Now, before we talk about treatment, I want to give you something. I've pulled some of today's research that I used into a free H. pylori research summary guide. It walks you through some of the evidence that we explored together today, and it's in plain language and it's free. The links are in the description or in the pinned comment below, so grab it now and bring it into your healing journey. Now let's talk about treatment. Food alone, generally speaking, isn't going to eradicate H. pylori. It is a notoriously stubborn bug. Your conventional route is multiple antibiotics taken at the same time. And while that can be effective, it comes with its own risks. Gut dysbiosis and imbalance down the road, nutrient depletion, and potential resistance when we're talking about that many antibiotics. That's reality. Some of my favorite herbal remedies for supporting the stomach during this process include mastic gum, zinc carnosine, deglycyrrhizated licorice, and marshmallow root. There's emerging interest in herbal protocols because of the lack of potential for antibiotic resistance and the harmful effects on the gut down the road. Studies show mastic gum in particular has a lot of promise for gastric support, and zinc carnosine has been documented to support the mucosal lining throughout the process of healing. But these need to be used thoughtfully, in the context of the individual, and in the right dosages as well. After treatment, whether it's antibiotics or a complementary and integrative approach, you ideally retest. This is called the test of cure. Best practices for testing are to wait for at least 4 weeks post-treatment, make sure you're off the PPIs for at least 2 weeks, or antibiotics for 4 weeks. This includes things like the antibiotics and the mastica when it comes to the herbal approaches, and then retest with a breath test or stool antigen test. These are the most specific for detecting active H. pylori infection. You may also go with a stool DNA PCR test, which tends to be very sensitive, though you may not have cleared all of the H. pylori out of your system, even though they may have been killed through the protocols already. In 2024, the American College of Gastroenterology guidelines emphasize that test of cure is a critical step when it comes to the treatment, so that you're not guessing and that you're confirming eradication with objective data. But it doesn't end there. Here's where the detective work can continue. If your symptoms come back, we look at family mapping, hygiene patterns, and whether or not reinfection is happening. But remember, you're not just treating the bug here, we're treating the dysfunction that occurs downstream from the presence of H. pylori. So, addressing the environment is incredibly important because we need to change the factors that allowed H. pylori to thrive in the first place. So, the big takeaway here is what you eat is not the whole story. How you digest, absorb, and integrate those nutrients into healing matter just as much. That's where the real, deep, lasting healing happens. Here's what I want you to remember, and I remember the struggle quite well. If your body is telling you that meals hurt, even healthy ones, that is a signal and you should listen to it. It's not a failure of the system. You're not broken. Your digestive cascade is just scrambled in the moment, and we need to strategically unscramble it. Gentle foods, strategic botanicals, and context driven microbial treatments and careful reintroduction are all parts of the process of a complete treatment plan. That's the root cause path that leads to that lasting change. Here's a few questions I get the most when it comes to H. pylori. Number one is, can I eradicate H. pylori with food alone? I would largely say no. I don't believe in absolutes, but food supports healing and symptom management and resilience restoration, but eradication of this organism usually requires targeted treatment. Number two is, how long do I eat this way? The most important time is to eat this way during active infection and treatment, and then gradually reintroduce foods 4 to 8 weeks after you clear H. pylori. And you want to watch for your body's response to these foods being reintroduced. Number three is, do I need to test my family or my partner? If your symptoms are strong or they keep coming back, short answer is yes. H. pylori spreads very easily through close contact, so family testing can be a very real part of your individual treatment journey as well. So you've learned the basics of nourishing while H. pylori heals. The next move is to rebuild wisely. Are your enzymes back online? Is the gut immune access or system recovering well? Are your microbes in balance further along the digestive tract? In the next video, I'll show you 3 next-level clues on a functional medicine stool test that answers those questions and maps out your next steps strategically. I'm Dr. Kenny, Root Cause Health Detective. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.